So, um, so we got a couple of issues that we wanted to talk about. Things that are kind of bothering us, in the last little while. But this issue came up, and I think it's important to talk about. So, Nick Saban, the coach of the University of Alabama, decided to shoot his mouth off. And I guess it was some kind of, looked like some kind of town hall or something like that. And he said that, you know, Texas A&M beat us in recruiting because they paid for all their players. They bought all their players with NIL deals, and they every single one, and that's how I don't know how we're supposed to compete with this and blah 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 blah.
Teams buy players in college football?
Yeah, yeah,
really?
It's a crazy,
really
crazy notion that someone would think
shocked.
That. Amazing.
I don't even know what to do. I'm wow. I can't even. Mind is blown.
Yep. And then Jimbo Fisher, the coach of Texas A&M, fired back at him and said, it's unbelievable that you would say that, and we didn't pay for any of our players. And then he went on and got personal, talking about, Nick Saban's got a lot of skeletons and things you don't even know about, and they think this guy's fantastic. Well, blah blah blah. It's despicable. And he said, so he fired back at him. And listen, first of all, I think of a couple things. I think number one, Nick Saban is trying to tell his boosters, listen. By the way, Nick Saban's not the only coach doing this. That is basically saying to his boosters, look, you guys need to kick in some money because, if you want to compete with the big boys, this is what it's going to take. Lane Kiffin's doing this. Like, I can understand it from that standpoint. But to directly call out another school and another coach who very well, by the way, Jimbo Fisher worked for Nick Saban at one point. So, for you to come out and call someone out like that is it's really bad form, number one. And number two, I don't buy for a second that Alabama has not, players have not gotten paid to play for Alabama. First of all, you've had players come out, since he said this and say, they gave me blah, 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 blah. They gave me $60,000. They gave me this.
Oh, really?
They gave me this. They gave me that. So, we didn't buy any players. It's like, no, Nick Saban, you didn't take money out of your pocket and give it to a player, but that doesn't mean that they weren't bought and paid for. Like, get the fuck out of here. So,
my first reaction to this was, Nick Saban, shut the fuck up, dude. Shut up. You basically, no. I mean, I hear this, and the thing is, make sure to listen for people watching this. If you haven't listened to because you've just listened to clips, listen to the whole thing that he talk when he's talking about this whole thing, because he says some other stuff too. But I mean, basically, look, and Dabo Sweeney, like Nick Saban and Dabo Sweeney, the coach at Clemson, they've already been whining about the NIL thing for the past however long it's past year or whatever.
Right.
And basically what this amounts to is, I can see right through this. You're upset because you guys are, I'm trying to think of the best adjectives to use here. You guys are psychopathic. Yes, psychopathic, created, competitive control freaks who flip the fuck out anytime any tiny little thing happens that threatens your control over your football program. Okay? Or your football program and your players and your things going on at your school. You flip the fuck out anytime this happens, okay? And what it amounts to is basically like, oh, you mean the players now have some control? They can actually make some kind of money? Well, you guys have been making billions of dollars for like 40 fucking years, it's basically, an old guy whining about losing some semblance of control. Now, do I think that maybe there should be, maybe they need to put maybe some more guardrails around the NIL thing? Maybe. Okay. Maybe reasonable people can discuss that and figure out some sort of thing. But even Colin Cowherd was talking about these. I think that you should only be able to get paid after you've been in college a year. Bullshit. Okay. And the idea that they're going to be enticing these players to come here with, and it's like, well, first of all, this has been going on the whole fucking time. And second of all, the idea that major college football is, the players can't make money off it is ridiculous on its face anyway. It doesn't exist in any other aspect of American society. That's why they approved the Supreme Court approved the NIL thing, because it just doesn't make sense that you can have labor like that and not pay them at all. Okay. So, I'm trying to think of the other thing I was going to say. So I don't really have a lot of sympathy for these coaches, and it's like I said, do you want to put guardrails in? Okay, but I don't have a lot of sympathy for these coaches complaining about it. Maybe it is a little wild and crazy. Who gives a shit? These players are finally getting money off this. Look, they could lose their scholarship and get kicked out of school or something, or they may not. A lot of them aren't going to make it to the NFL, so at least they can make some kind of money off of it. Or if they do make it to the NFL, they're going to play for like a year or two, and then they'll be out of the sport. Well, so what's the problem?
And the other thing is, like, it's kind of like, this is the crazy part about him doing this. He called out Deion Sanders too for the kid that went to Jackson State. So, this is a really bad idea for Nick Saban, because now, let me tell you something, Nick, you better not have been around anybody who paid anybody, because you just basically put a target on your back by calling other people out, saying they're doing blah, 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 which is in the SEC. I mean, it's like this in other conferences too, but mostly the SEC, there's a rule, don't tell on other guys, because we all want to get away with stuff.
Yeah.
So this is it's a really dumb move by Nick Saban. And, to me, the bigger issue here, and, I was telling you about this earlier, that, Nick Saban was complaining, well, you're not supposed to be able to entice players to go to your school with NIL deals. Okay. Well, who's supposed to enforce this? They all blame. This is the first thing the coaches are so transparent. This is the first thing they do. They blame the NCAA. Well, they're not enforcing this and they're not doing this because these other schools are getting away with blah, 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 which is, the dirty secret about that is it's complete bullshit. They love the NCAA being in charge because they know they can just get away with whatever, because the NCAA doesn't have the manpower or the resources to actually do anything about this. And then they can blame the NCAA.
They rely on a lot of self-reporting and other stuff. Like people having to report that, this was violated, and you report it to the NCAA. Then they'll go investigate. But if people don't report stuff, like, what are you supposed to do? And how many compliance people do you think that the NCAA has to, like, look through everything? Oh, is this school reporting the right stuff? Are there any problems here or whatever? So, also they're really relying on the compliance people in each school to be doing the right thing.
Right.
Not like look the other way if something weird goes on, or just sort of say, I didn't know about that.
Yeah. And who's going to be motivated? Right. The compliance people, what are they going to be motivated to do? They're going to be motivated to help their school. They're not going to be motivated to report people.
To keep their job.
Yeah, exactly. Keep their job. That's all they want to do. So it blows my mind that people look at this. They're getting away with this because people look at this from the outside and just go, wow, the NCAA, and everybody blames the NCAA for everything as if it's all their fault. And it's not. If they want things to change, so this is my message to all the Division I schools and all the conferences. If you want things to change, then do something about it yourself. Stop blaming the NCAA and expecting them to clean everything up for you. No, they don't want the NCAA to clean it up because they can make all kinds of money like this. They love it like this. It's a complete nonsense. Nick Saban's upset because he might not have the best recruiting class and he might not win the championship every single year. So it's like, get over it, dude. And the other thing is, like Colin Cowherd was talking about this is kind of a dirty, thing that, coaches do. So when Nick Saban first got to Alabama, he was doing what's called gray shirting, where he was basically recruiting everybody that he possibly could get, even though they weren't good enough to play for his team and they never would play for his team, but he would allow them to transfer to like Troy and, Division I AA schools and smaller schools that weren't going to get in his way. So he was basically taking all of the recruits just because he could get them from the other schools that could have beaten him and giving them to schools that couldn't. So, it's funny how he comes out now and wants to call other people out for doing shit when he does shit too.
Of course.
We all know players have been paid to go to Alabama. There's no way it hasn't happened. Don't give me this nonsense. Nobody's clean in this situation. Okay. Just because he doesn't.
Well, and the other thing is Nick Saban's complaining, saying Texas A&M is doing something shady or doing something against the rules. Look, when you have a system like college athletics, well, college football, when you have a system like this that is incredibly fucked up, okay, don't be surprised when fucked up, shady shit happens in a corrupt system. Look throughout history, throughout any other industry. When you have a screwed up industry, screwed up stuff's going to happen, okay? And I'm not even saying that Texas A&M did anything wrong, but it's just Nick Saban's trying to act like they're doing a bunch of shady stuff, and it's like that's not really – they're following the rules, the rules the way that they are. The other thing I wanted to mention was if Nick Saban, one of the things he mentioned was, well, the NCAA can't enforce its rules because they're constantly getting sued over stuff. It's why we have the transfer portal because kids kept suing. Oh, okay, so let me get this straight. Because it's totally okay for coaches to just leave whenever the fuck they want. But before the transfer portal, there was a year penalty where if you wanted to transfer, you couldn't play for a year. Oh, that's fair? Okay, but you're complaining about people suing over that? Yeah, they should have sued over that because it's bullshit.
Also, you had to get the coach to agree to the transfer. Like the coach controlled where you got transferred to. Like they wouldn't let you get transferred in conference. You had to go across the country or something like that. Now the players get to do whatever they want, which by the way, yeah, they probably need to come up with some kind of calendar or, restrict the time period when you can transfer.
But I mean, basically the deal is that like, look, okay, let's stop calling these people kids. They're not kids. Like once you're 18, you're kind of an adult. Okay. You should be able to decide what school you want to go to. And if you get to some place and you're not going to play, and it's really important for you to be able to play, then transfer. I don't have a problem with that. Now, are people maybe potentially transferring because of an NIL deal that they think is going to be better somewhere else? And is it possible they could get screwed over and not get as much money as they think as they were promised or they think that they're going to get? Yes, that is a possibility. But I would just say this, as an adult, you've got to make decisions about that stuff. And sometimes people get screwed over because someone promised them something and it doesn't happen. You got to be an adult and you got to figure it out.
Well, and in this situation, at least you have the ability to transfer if your situation gets messed up, you have the ability to do something about it. So this is just complete bullshit. And no, first of all, you said about following the rules. I don't think anybody's following the rules because there's nobody watching them. There's no reason to follow the rules. What the hell are you talking about? So it's just how brazen do you want to be about it? So it's complete garbage, and Nick Saban needs to knock it off, man. Because he complains all the time. It's not fair. He's acting like he wants more parity, and that's just we all know that's nonsense. They just wants to win more titles.
And the other thing, Dan Le Batard has said this before. These coaches like Nick Saban, they expect all their players to act with perfect decorum and perfect control, and be even keel all the time. Yet the coaches themselves act like fucking nutcases. Okay, and it's totally okay.
Right. Yeah. So, listen, looks like, message to Nick Saban, Texas A&M's coming for you.
Yeah.
They're coming for you. Number one recruiting class.
Like people were saying that game in Tuscaloosa in October, that's going to be,
Woo. I was listening to, Danny Cannell was on, one of the shows I listened to, and, he was basically saying like that, he thinks it's a real possibility that the Power 5 conferences may, try to separate themselves at some point and, create their own way of doing things, which,
I actually am all for that because those basically those Power 5 conferences, it's kind of like I don't want to say they're playing a different sport, but revenue wise, it's just a different, it's you can call like Division II and Division III and Division I AA like a business, I guess, if you want to, but they're not making anywhere near the amount of money that the Power 5 conferences make. So it's from that perspective, it's a different sport. Yeah, it's a different league. But put it that way, it's a different league.
Yeah, yeah, it's a whole different animal when you have to deal with that. These coaches are like CEOs of $1 million, Fortune 500 companies. So I think. Now listen, the only one of the examples that we have about leagues trying to split off is they tried the Super League in soccer, and then they're trying to do this thing in golf where they're getting all this money from Saudi Arabia, and neither one's working out. So, we'll see how this goes. Getting these conferences to agree on anything.
Yeah.
We've seen they're not that interested in doing it because they've had meetings. They had meetings over expanding the playoff. They can't agree on that. It's, so I don't know that anything's going to change because I just don't think you can get these guys in a room. And you would, it's funny though, you would think it's not that hard. Like, all right, what's the total amount of revenue that we all bring in? Okay, this is the amount. Okay, how are we going to divide that up? I mean, I don't see what's so difficult about this, but they don't want to do it. Like, I'd love to have a 12-team playoff, and they tell us, oh, yeah, we want to have a 12-team playoff. Of course we do. But every time there comes an opportunity for them to do something about it, they don't. It blows my mind. These guys,
and they could make more money too. That's the other thing. I'm like, what? I don't why. What's the holdup here? How is this not like agenda item number one? Like, let's merge together and make even more fucking money. Like,
right.
What is the?
And they have these conference commissioners. These are powerful people. All they have to do, if they got all of their staffs in a room for 2 weeks, they could figure this out. But they've had. They've had 3 or 4 meetings about the playoff in the last year. Like really? Like this is, they're you can see how interested they are because they'll meet once, then they'll meet 3 months later. It's like, what? It's so easy. Just figure it out, guys. But they're not, I just don't think they're going to do it. And everybody's like, oh, it's because the Big Ten wants the Rose Bowl. Yeah, sure. They want the Rose Bowl, but you're going to tell me these people can't sit there and figure it. My take on this is, they don't want it because if they wanted it, they would do it.
Yeah.